The moment the towel comes off, your dog transforms into a flying torpedo. They race out of the bathroom, sliding across the hardwood floors, crashing into the sofa, and completely ignoring your commands to settle down. It's a spectacular explosion of pure, unbridled chaos right there in your living room. You just gave them a bath, and now they are acting like a wild animal. This frantic running and floor rubbing is something we affectionately call the Zoomies. You probably laughed and pulled out your phone to record it, assuming it's just a funny quirk. We tend to think they are just celebrating the end of bath time, shaking off the water, and enjoying the feeling of being fresh and clean. But if we look closely at what is actually happening inside their nervous system, the true motivation behind this wild behavior is far deeper and a lot more complex. It is not about the joy of being clean. It is about acute emotional recovery. Contrary to the popular belief that your dog is simply thrilled to smell like lavender shampoo, this is a physiological emergency response. Quote, "They are not celebrating a relaxing spa day. Instead, they are executing an ancient survival protocol designed to aggressively bring their chaotic internal state back into balance." And to understand why a simple bath triggers this, we have to look at how their brain processes confinement. But here's where it gets interesting. In behavioral science, this random explosive running actually has a formal name. Researchers writing in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior in 2018 classified this behavior as frenetic random activity periods, or FRAPs. They found that these intense bursts of movement are not random playfulness, but rather a deeply ingrained biological mechanism. When a dog is subjected to an environment where they must suppress their natural instincts, tension builds up rapidly in their muscles and nervous system. FRAPs serve as an emergency tension release valve. It is their body's way of instantly discharging a massive accumulation of psychological pressure that has been tightly coiled up. What this means is that the core nature of a FRAP episode is essentially a decompression sequence. Think of a coiled spring being pressed down harder and harder. The longer the compression lasts, the more violent the release will be when you finally let go. After a period of intense physical or emotional restraint, your dog's nervous system desperately needs to clear out the spiking adrenaline. The only way to quickly burn off that surging chemical pressure is through an explosive burst of kinetic energy. The running isn't play. It is a highly efficient biological exhaust system working exactly as nature intended. So what causes all this pressure? Well, to a dog's psychology, a 15-minute bath is perceived as spatial confinement and a forced loss of motor control. Researchers publishing in Current Biology in 2019 investigated how domestic dogs process spatial restriction. They found that even in familiar environments, being physically restrained from moving freely triggers profound psychological distress. When you put your dog in a slippery tub, hold them in place, and pour water over them, they cannot use their natural flight response. They are trapped. To their primitive brain, losing the ability to run away from an unpleasant stimulus is a direct threat to their survival autonomy. Throughout that entire ordeal in the water, their stress hormones are silently skyrocketing. Cortisol continuously floods their brain as they endure the strange smells, the loud rushing water, and the slippery surface where they can't get any traction. They might stand perfectly still and endure it, but internally, their central nervous system is firing warning signals. They feel completely stripped of their defensive autonomy. It takes an enormous amount of mental discipline for your dog to stand there and tolerate the bath without fighting back. And that suppression exacts a heavy chemical toll on their brain. Then, the ordeal finally ends. The exact second they escape the tub, and you start aggressively rubbing them down with a towel, something shifts. The physical restraint is lifted. Their central nervous system immediately receives a massive, flashing danger past release signal. The threat of the bathtub is officially over. That realization acts as a trigger switch. Their brain goes from a state of forced endurance directly into a state of sudden liberation. The floodgates open, and their pent-up survival instincts are given the green light to take over. All of that physical energy and psychological pressure that was forcefully suppressed in the tub is instantly converted into an explosive kinetic chain. Every muscle that was locked in anxious tension now fires at maximum capacity. They sprint, they turn sharply, and they bounce off the furniture because they are literally running the stress out of their body. It is a spectacular mechanical transfer of energy, fundamentally turning the invisible weight of cortisol into pure, visible motion just to relieve the intense strain on their muscle tissue and nervous system. But there is a powerful chemical reward waiting at the end of this sprint. Researchers publishing in Neuroscience Letters in 2020 mapped the specific neurochemical pathways associated with unexpected, explosive motor activity. They found that this high-speed, chaotic movement immediately triggers the release of a massive amount of dopamine straight into the amygdala, which is the brain's emotional processing center. The sheer act of running at top speed serves as a potent neurological reward. By moving relentlessly after being restrained, your dog's brain is essentially self-medicating. It floods the system with feel-good neurotransmitters to rapidly counteract the lingering effects of the stress hormones generated during the bath. This creates what behavioral scientists call a rebound effect. When an animal experiences a sudden release from extreme tension, the brain aggressively overcompensates. It turns the accumulated severe stress into an intense craving for neurological euphoria. The deeper the restriction they felt in the bathtub, the higher the euphoric peak they need to reach in order to find balance again. It is a psychological pendulum swinging violently from one extreme to the other. They are running because their brain is desperately chasing that dopamine hit to wash away the anxiety of the grooming process, and dopamine isn't working alone. Researchers publishing in Frontiers in Behavioral Neuroscience in 2021 demonstrated that the mammalian endocannabinoid system also activates heavily during these intense bursts of physical exertion. This is the exact same complex biological system responsible for producing the famous runner's highs in human athletes. As your dog tears recklessly through the hallway, this system produces a profound, natural euphoric high. It effectively dulls any lingering emotional or physical discomfort and actively soothes their strained nerves. That wide-eyed, slightly frantic look on their face isn't just excitement. It is the visible manifestation of a brain soaking deeply in a cocktail of comforting neurochemicals, but the frantic running is only half the story. The other mystery is why they violently rub themselves against the carpet, the sofa, or your freshly washed bed sheets. Another core factor driving this erratic behavior comes directly from their primal olfactory instincts. The expensive human shampoo you just used completely obliterated and overwrote their natural, muddy signature scent. To a dog, their personal scent profile is their primary identity in the world. When you wash it away with soap, you are essentially erasing a fundamental part of who they are and replacing it with something completely foreign and deeply overwhelming. Those sweet floral shampoos might smell amazing to us, but to them, they are intensely abrasive. Researchers publishing in Applied Animal Behavior Science in 2017 evaluated olfactory processing and stress responses in domestic canines. They determined that highly fragranced artificial scents actually cause profound sensory torture and cognitive overload in a dog's extraordinarily sensitive olfactory cortex. Because a dog's sense of smell is tens of thousands of times more powerful than ours, being entirely coated in artificial lavender or citrus is sensorially blinding. It is the equivalent of being forced to wear sunglasses painted with bright neon colors while someone continuously blasts an air horn right next to your ear. So, when they dive headfirst into the living room rug and start frantically thrashing their backside to side, they are not itching. That frantic rubbing against your furniture is a primal, desperate attempt to intentionally re-robe themselves in familiar environmental scents. They are deliberately trying to scrub the offensive, overwhelming artificial perfume off their fur and aggressively absorb the comforting, earthy smells of their own home. It is basically a rapid, panicked scent reclamation project. They absolutely will not stop sliding across your floors and blankets until they finally feel like they smell like themselves again. This desperate need to mask their new scent has incredibly ancient roots. Evolutionarily, surviving predators learn very quickly to never emit bright, artificial scents. Researchers reporting in the journal Animal Cognition in 2015 studied the scent-rolling behavior of wild mammalian predators. They noted that predators instinctively roll in pungent organic matter to actively camouflage their own odor from potential prey. If a wild wolf smelled like a bouquet of spring flowers, every single prey animal within a 3-mile radius would be instantly alerted to their presence. Your dog may sleep on a memory foam mattress every night, but their deep DNA is still warning them that smelling like a tropical coconut breeze is a severe tactical disadvantage that compromises their survival. But alongside the intense neurological release and the desperate olfactory cover-up, there is one more vital biological piece to the puzzle. Fire-seam Zoomies are forcefully stimulated by a severe sudden drop in their core body temperature. When you pull your dog out of the warm water, they are completely and entirely soaked down to the skin. And unless you happen to own an industrial-grade grooming dryer, their thick fur is going to stay damp for quite a while. That lingering, heavy moisture triggers an immediate and critical physiological crisis for a warm-blooded animal that heavily relies on its dry coat for vital thermal insulation. When a wet coat isn't fully dried, exposing it to the ambient air in your house causes rapid water evaporation. This evaporative cooling violently strips away massive amounts of core body heat in a matter of minutes. As the water turns to vapor, it pulls thermal energy completely out of their muscles. Your dog instantly feels an intense, bone-deep chill. Even if the house is comfortably warm to you, their wet skin is experiencing a rapid freeze. The frantic running is their body's desperate automatic mechanism to fight off creeping hypothermia and restore their internal furnace. Sprinting at absolutely full speed is the most direct, effective way to generate deep internal heat. Researchers publishing in Mammalian Physiology in 2019 examined how warm-blooded animals combat the effects of sudden evaporative cooling. They proved that explosive kinetic friction generated in large leg muscles is the absolute most efficient way to rapidly rewarm the circulatory system. By aggressively firing their massive thigh and shoulder muscles at maximum output, they effectively turn their body into a powerful organic heater. The Zoomies are not just an expression of relief, they are a critical thermodynamic engine. The faster they run, the more friction they internally generate, and the faster their dangerous shivering subsides. So when you combine all these factors, you see a complete physiological reset. In terms of trauma recovery, Zoomies act exactly like a somatic experiencing mechanism. Somatic experiencing is a therapeutic concept where the physical body moves to release trapped traumatic energy. By running frantically, your dog is actively allowing their body to recalibrate its brain function naturally. They are shaking off the metaphorical ghost of the bathtub. The chaotic movement physically burns through the residual stress, allowing their heart rate and breathing to smoothly transition back from a state of panic into a state of serene calm. We actually see this exact same trauma release pattern everywhere in the natural world. Researchers writing in the Journal of Zoology in 2022 documented how wild mammals physically respond after narrowly escaping a life-threatening predator. They observed that animals almost always sprint or shake violently to physically shed residual fear-inducing neurotransmitters once they finally reach safety. An antelope that miraculously escapes a lion will stand and shiver uncontrollably, or suddenly run in a brief, frantic burst, even with no predator in sight. Your dog is flawlessly executing this exact same inherited release sequence. The bathtub was the terrifying predator, and now that they have miraculously survived, they must literally shake the lingering fear out of their muscles. This spectacular burst of chaotic movement is a fundamental requirement for their long-term psychological well-being, DE. It is the primary, essential way for their autonomic nervous system to hit the restarts button and definitively return to a deeply safe baseline state. Without this frantic physical release, those corrosive stress chemicals would linger stubbornly in their bloodstream for hours, causing ongoing anxiety, pacing, and chronic restlessness. The Zoomies are the necessary, vital bridge between the high-alert trauma of being washed and the peaceful relaxation of lounging on their bed. It is never misbehavior. It is highly advanced biological self-regulation happening in spectacular, destructive motion. And your specific reaction dramatically amplifies this healing effect. When owners cheerfully cheer their dogs on as they hopelessly crash around the house, it plays a highly vital role in their emotional recovery. Researchers publishing in Hormones and Behavior in 2020 discovered that positive human vocal encouragement directly stimulates a profound release of oxytocin in a dog's bloodstream. Oxytocin is the ultimate mammalian bonding hormone. When you laugh, clap your hands, and happily validate their crazy running, you are literally flooding their brain with a chemical signal of love and safety. You are tangibly reassuring them that the scary event is truly over and that they are perfectly safe within their pack. This deep social connection creates a remarkably beautiful, reinforcing emotional feedback loop. The dog clearly realizes their beloved owner is happy and relaxed, which instantly validates and deepens their own internal relief. That shared joy actively fuels the urge to keep running their spectacular race for just a little bit longer. Your genuine laughter acts as a powerful psychological anchor, confirming that the dreaded bathroom ordeal was just a temporary inconvenience, not a permanent rupture in your bond. They run even faster because your delight magically turns their solitary, frantic stress release into a shared, incredibly joyful game of mutual celebration. However, as a responsible owner, you need to watch their body language carefully. Not all chaotic jumping and running automatically means they are experiencing joyous relief. If their tail is tightly tucked between their legs, their ears are pinned flat back against their skull, and they are panting excessively, it signals severe fear and overstimulation. In these cases, the bath may have been genuinely traumatizing rather than just mildly annoying. It is crucial to distinguish between the loose, bouncy run of a happy FRAP episode and the panicked, rigid sprinting of an overwhelmed animal. If you see them experiencing a true, healthy FRAP episode, you must respect the absolute golden rule of post-bath Zoomies. Never scold them, never block their path, and absolutely never forcefully grab or stop a dog while they are actively discharging this pent-up energy. Trying to aggressively catch them or yelling at them to calm down will instantly short-circuit their natural physiological release process. It actively suppresses the necessary emotional reset and permanently traps the anxiety deep inside their nervous system. You must simply let the behavioral cycle run its complete, natural course without any human interference. Your only job in that chaotic moment is gentle, passive management. Quickly remove any sharp obstacles, move the fragile vases out of the way, and give this incredible biological machine the safe, open space it desperately needs. Let them slide wildly on the rugs. Let them enthusiastically crash into the sofa pillows. By stepping back and graciously letting them finish their vital stress relief cycle, you are actively supporting their long-term psychological health. Once they finally collapse onto their bed with a heavy, satisfying sigh, you will know that their autonomic nervous system has successfully reset itself perfectly. But if their zoomies consistently end with intense exhaustion, uncontrolled trembling, or defensive snapping when approached, you need to drastically change your bathing routine. A mild frap is completely healthy, but escalating, lingering panic is definitely not. Consider immediately switching to a completely unscented, gentle, organic shampoo to spare their delicate olfactory nerves from chemical overload. Also, try using slightly warmer water and heavily utilizing a non-slip rubber mat at the bottom of the tub. Giving them secure foot traction will completely prevent that terrifying feeling of helplessness, drastically reducing the baseline cortisol spike before the bath even finishes. It turns out that those unbelievably frantic sprints through your completely soaked hallway are not just silly canine misbehavior. They are a perfectly choreographed, flawless orchestration of nature at work. Every slipped paw and frantic roll on the carpet is an intricate web, seamlessly intertwining dopamine neurochemistry, vital thermodynamics, and the deep ringing echoes of their ancient predatory history. It is a literal masterpiece of evolutionary survival playing out right next to your coffee table. By running like an untamed wild creature, your domestic companion is proving just how powerfully their resilient ancestral instincts still protect their mental and physical well-being today. So the next time your beloved dog violently emerges from the bathroom and instantly turns your pristine white rug into a static-filled, messy crash pad, just take a deep breath. Do not yell at them to stop. Do not worry about the brief, chaotic mess they are making. Instead, just simply smile. Lean gently against the doorframe and watch them run with all their might. Because what you are witnessing isn't misbehavior or chaos. It is the joyful, incredibly triumphant cheer of an incredibly healthy, resilient little warrior who has successfully shaken off restraint, survived the great soapy ordeal, and is brilliantly celebrating their return to absolute freedom.